we dive into the question of identity as Charlotte Butt realizes that stepping into someone's life is not as simple as putting on their face. While Caleb shows Delores what he's made of, Delores shows Caleb what's made him. Yeah, it's one of those episodes. It's Westworld, Season 3, Episode 3, The Absence of Field. Hey everyone, D here, and welcome to this week's review of Westworld. So yes, of course, lots of spoilers coming your way. And as usual, do want to remind you about our quick jump index system. Right in the description below, we'll have this entire review titleized, time-stamped. You can jump to the end of the review first. You can watch the beginning last. You can watch this review in any order you'd like. Alright, before we jump into things, just sort of want to check in on all of you. I hope you are doing well. You are safe. This crazy coronavirus is spreading like wildfire across the country here in the United States. We're now number one, the highest number of cases in the world that is only spreading. We are attempting our best, many of us, to try and clamp this down here in California. Of course, we have a stay-at-home order. I know that New York heavily hit, really the epicenter, and that just has to deal with density. Larger cities, more dense populations, easier to spread. More of your Central America, Middle America, less populated areas, less density, slower spread, but still occurring. So I hope you all are staying safe, staying clean. Please don't leave your house if you don't need to. Try to avoid gathering in groups. I know there's a lot of information out there. There's a lot of misinformation out there. But this is going to get worse before it gets better. So please stay safe, stay clean, watch out for each other, and just, if we hold up for a little while, it's going to be a hard hit, but then it's over and we can hopefully move on. If we don't, it's only going to drag this out. So be safe, everyone, please. All right, well, let's get to the review, shall we? A little happier direction here on this. And oh my God, this was such a meaty, lovely, awesome episode. I love when shows really dive into very heady issues, very large issues, and deal with them in an intelligent manner, in an exploratory way, where the show is exploring these ideas with us as the audience and sort of makes it a whole journey. I mean, and you tie that in with incredible acting, beautiful cinematography, great use of music and soundtrack. It just makes it all a wonderful picture. And this, again, just really all of the good stuff that I love to watch. Charlotte dealing with a center of identity, and Charlotte, they're very intentionally not letting us know who she is, which is sort of perfect because it frames more of her journey, the fact that she doesn't know who she is, both as her original host and as Charlotte. There is this lack of information, and a lot of the conflict comes through her of being provided with this new information that she now has to sort of integrate, and it only makes her feel more isolated, alone, out of touch with the world that she is supposed to be into. So really, Tessa Thompson does an amazing role, an amazing job this episode, both in the arc of trying to figure out who she is and owning it in a moment where she does realize at least an important core of her identity. Meanwhile, of course, we have sort of Caleb and Delores doing their little dance of discovery. An area more, again, idea of not having information, but of making choices on the information that you do have. A lot of Caleb's whole arc within this is all resultant of specific choices that he makes or is presented to him. In other words, it's a wonderful move. Both, again, Aaron Paul doing an incredible job of this, just sort of, again, a discovery kind of his own identity, not in the same way as Charlotte, who is, again, trying to piece together information, but for Caleb, more of deciding what parts of him that he wants to explore, who it is that he wants to be, much more of a conscious choice in that aspect. And then, of course, by making those choices, ends up being shown a much bigger piece of the world. And him, it was kind of funny. His choices kind of end his life and also show him, you know, the man behind the curtain, how things are really moving and happening in his world. So really just an incredible arc for both of those real main characters. Chunky of story, chunky full of story, chock full of story, amazing performances in with this. Really, I thought the episode was going to end like 4 or 5 different times. I was like, how are they going to squeeze more into it? And yet, every moment is used well in this. And again, that is brilliant filmmaking right there. All right, so let's actually start off with Charlotte, since in fact that's how the episode sort of kicks off. Both the real Charlotte Hale in some final moments in the long journey into night, or journey into night, where she takes a host and manages to try and record a message for her son. Which, yeah, I mean, world falling around behind you, you're going to take your moments to make whatever communication for however long that you possibly can. We know, of course, that she survived for at least some time after that particular moment. She wasn't killed until she was in the Mesa. So, you know, but again, a good and important moment. It sets a tone. And then how we move immediately from that into the building of Charlotte Bot, of the host form here, which I thought was a really cool little bit. I just love those little bits of the eye forming, a little bit of the face as the forms coming out of the liquid goo, was all sort of very cool. And again, sort of establishes one of the first to be brought out here. Obviously, there's the body that Delores had used to get out, so it was sort of already there, but now making that probably a new one, or was that? No, because that was in her place. So it's a new bot, new form. Okay, for the new host body. But obviously, an important thing. You want Charlotte to perpetuate. Delores has work to do. You need a Charlotte to go and take over at Delos, because there's only a handful of them. Without Delos, there is no way of getting any more hosts. So that's sort of part of, I think, Delores' big plan there with having a Charlotte is get Delos up and moving. We need production of hosts. We need more of us. But who is Charlotte? And I think that's really an important question. Again, not only are we dealing with a lot of identity issues throughout this episode, they very intentionally not tell us who is in Charlotte. They give us little bits of information. Someone that Delores trusts. You know, maybe you hear a little slight twang there in the early discussion there. So the most likely candidate, and we've talked about this before, is Teddy. Teddy would seem to be the one person that Delores trusts. She was definitely with him in the whole journey last episode, or last season, in the whole escape attempt and everything. So we do know they have this long connection. And part of the whole Charlotte issue that's going on is, again, with identity, not only is there a lacking of information of sort of Charlotte's life. That's one of the complications that seem to dwell upon this whole base is they don't have all of Charlotte's book. Was that part of the information that was lost? They don't have all of her life information like they have on some of the other guests. Forgetting about the kid. Forgetting obviously about being a mole, there's all sorts of chunks, even how long her ex-husband has been gone, that there is an ex-husband, yes, but that he doesn't live there for more, or for how long. There's all of these chunks of information, which would make things more difficult enough. But our host bot also seems to be lacking of information. Now, if we look at Teddy as that potentiality, by the end of last season, he was sort of broken. He killed himself. He shot himself in the head in an attempt to take himself out. because he was one way, and then Delores had changed him. It upped and altered his program, making him meaner, made him more effective as Delores needed for that particular journey, but very much against the core of what Teddy has always been, for the most part. I know there was some early stuff with the whole Wyatt thing and all of that, and maybe that is an important part in his base as well. But by the end of last episode, he was kind of broken. So it would sort of make sense for him, for Teddy to kind of, again, not have this whole identity, not curious of who he is. He was already split last season and now in a whole new body. How do you identify who you are? Are you your old you, or are you this new you? And that's part of what Charlotte's going through all of this, or Charlotte Bott, is that feel that there is a Charlotte inside of him. That identity is trying to take over the programming there, claw its way out of his skin, or her skin. Again, we don't know the identity of it. So a lot of very, very cool stuff, a lot of very big questioning aspects, and sort of, again, makes sense. This lack of information on who you are, not only as just an individual, but then an individual who doesn't know who they are, trying to be someone else, and then having all the information of who that someone else is. It makes it for a very complex, and we could see with the complications, the whole digging in onto self. Am I alive? The kind of cutting thing of just checking, am I real? Am I feeling this? Is this my actual flesh? I mean, this is actual psychological conditions right here. So like I said, it makes sense that this would be Teddy. Someone that Delores would trust. On the other hand, that's too obvious of an answer. I mean, isn't it? Wouldn't they just say Teddy? Why are they being so evasive? Why are they being so evasive on what the answer is? So, what other possibilities would we have? I mean, someone else had a twang. Did sound a little like Clementine for a moment there in the beginning, and with that twang. A little bit of rind on you. Just sort of sounded like. But she was really messed up in the head. There was damaged and stuff, and she never really came back after they did the whole kind of nose thing and stuff. So I don't think it's Clementine. And also, there was no relationship there. Who else was Delores have sort of a strong relationship with? And this is just a theory I'm going to throw out there before we get back to everything else. What if it's William? What if it's the Man in Black? I mean, we saw at the end of last season, he probably died going down into the forge, and they seem to be trying to rebuild his personality. And that shot seemed to be far into the future, maybe after the whole thing that's happening here with Delores and so on. So maybe we don't see William for this season. Maybe he's being saved for next season and going on. On the other hand, one of the problems with those hosts getting in the bodies is that sort of lack of full information. What if this is Delores using part of William as sort of a design in there? Because then he wouldn't entirely know who he was. Maybe this is sort of an old William that has more of an attraction and attention to Delores. So, and at the end, the very big predator scene, that seemed to be a defining characteristic for him. Seeing you do this shows who I am. I am a predator. And that is something that, of course, Man in Black ended up being. Old William was very nice, and then when he became the Man in Black, he found his predator, his ruthless side to him. So, again, I don't know, and that would certainly open up a whole bunch of different things, because then you have the complications of trying to get an actual personality inside, and maybe just by stacking the two of them, it's sort of stabilized, the Man in Black and Charlotte. It gets a certain stability. I don't know. I'm just saying is that Teddy seems the obvious answer, so therefore, because it's Westworld, I'm thinking there has to be someone else. So I'm just saying, William would be an interesting exchange there. Now, I do want to take a moment before we move on and talk a little bit about the relationship between Charlotte and Nathan, between mother and son, because again, part of the establishment from the very, very beginning of the episode, and very core in a lot of Charlotte's questioning of self. Because having a kid's a very important bit of information to have in the old memory bank. And I don't know, maybe there's kind of an interesting similarity between Charlotte Bot and Charlotte, because what's implied in the conversation with Jake, the ex-husband there, is that Charlotte isn't necessarily very attentive normally. That normally he forgets things with the son. Normally he's having to sort of make things up, fill in blanks and stuff for her. I mean, obviously, Charlotte Bot's been there for a while, and much of that conversation seems to imply to the current phase of filling in and trying to give you space from the big tragic horror of what you've been through. But even through that conversation seems to imply, do what you always do, lie. That this is sort of a recurring pattern sort of with her. But when you're questioning your identity and you're already having to fill in blanks, the great thing of having a kid there that can see right through you and knows that you're not his mommy. I mean, that was really such an emotionally impactful scene. Kid doing an amazing job right there, by the way. The kid actor, man, he was owning that little bit of scene. Just perfect small little bits. And Tessa Thompson, again, just feeding or reacting off of all of those moments, I thought was very intense. And obviously you see that there is an attempt to, at this point, is it just fill in the blanks? Oh, you're supposed to be a kid, let me do the mom things that I can't really do right because I don't know what the whole love and mom emotion is. Even when it comes down to the sort of hug the spoon right behind, you know, you're not doing it right, mommy. I want my old mommy back. Which, again, and I love how they actually kind of like mirrored that with Charlotte and Delores afterwards. As Charlotte is sort of falling apart and cutting, and, is she going to have to be taken out or not is her big concern. She just wants to sort of be held, and in that moment we have Delores mimicking the same thing, almost the same position, holding and hugging. Was it the physical body positioning that the kid didn't feel right, or was it that emotional connection that she was lacking? So in a way here we have Delores kind of being a parent to Charlotte, so Charlotte can be a better parent to Nathan. I mean, I love how they interweave all of these cool little moments. And then we get a little payback with the feeling. I mean, the one thing about waking that up, that one whole scene, is we'd already had Jake before pushing about, you forgot him at school, you can't keep doing this, I can't keep covering for you. And then when Charlotte goes and sees Delores and lays down and sleeps through the night, we're like, oh my God, you're going to forget your son again. But I guess that little bit of attention was important. And she realizes, I want to sort of connect with my kid and do all of that. I mean, we've already seen that the bit of the video where she's trying to make that connection and sing and what is important to the child. But when she goes to pick him up and sees Thomas there with the dog, he's got a nice dog. You pet him just like this. Yeah, just like this. Oh, as the audience, we get our blood going. And it was just sort of perfect for Charlotte to just walk in and just own that moment. You'll get your stuff. I'm going to talk to Tommy here. No. Thanks so much for turning off the cameras. Again, just if you didn't know how creepy and bad this individual was and what the plans were, the fact that he shut off the cameras around, yeah, that guarantees it. But that emotional parental moment, it was kind of perfect. And again, this is where I wonder about the William thing, because Teddy could be a killer for sure, and certainly protecting Delores was able to do anything that needed to. But William was a parent also. In fact, I don't even realize if William realizes that he killed his own daughter. So I'm wondering if this sort of puts things in. Seeing it with my son reminded me, oh, I'm glad it did. And then stop. I can't stop, because every time I squeeze harder, I remember myself even more. To me, that sounds like William. So it could go either way. Could be Teddy in protective mode or William in protective and murder mode. But I just love how the idea of that relationship with the child is sort of what motivated that kind of grasp onto identity. Love, the connections between people define us more than maybe just our own memories of who we are. All right, then of course we have Caleb's journey. Well, Caleb and Delores, kind of mostly together, kind of a duo journey on this. And like I had mentioned before, a lot of choices kind of at the core of Caleb's story here. Okay, so he's got Delores, called in the paramedics, trying to get help. And even here we get a great establishment of the strength of Caleb's character, how he is not dependent upon being told what to do or important. He's got knowledge and he knows how to apply it, and he doesn't need to follow rules or protocols to do the right thing. Because they're in the ambulance, and of course, they're trying to identify what's wrong with Delores, and she's not human, so the machine's not telling her what, and it's not like hosts are a common thing at all out in the real world outside of the parks. So it was kind of an interesting thing where you had the paramedics that are waiting for a machine to tell them what to do and can't make a choice until, and then we have Caleb like, what are you talking about? She needs blood, she needs oxygen, she needs a stim pack, she needs this. Just pulling things out like we have to do. You gotta do what needs to be done. You can't wait to be told what needs to be done. And that's kind of, again, the great basis for his character really throughout this whole episode in a sense. Because everything that comes up to him deals with the point of choices. One, I love the Rico app here. Again, popping up and telling him, as the police come up, that crime in progress. Right here where you are. And instantly he's smarting on and realizes, hey, these aren't real cops. If you go with them, we're never going to see you again. And Delores is, again, the small, just like, grab, help me. Even beforehand, I think there was that tiny little moment where the paramedics asked Caleb, do you know her? And he doesn't lie, he doesn't say anything. She does a little grab of hand and he says, I'll go with you, she shouldn't be alone. Doesn't answer their question, but gets things moving and going forward. And I'm really enjoying a lot of this particulars of Caleb's character. But see here, he has the choice. He can try and help Delores, or let her go on her way. She wants help, so he makes the choice to intervene. And again, I'm sure these cops are not expecting someone to come out to be like, what are you doing here? Where's your badge? We need to see some ID. Okay, no problem right there. Why don't you call the cops if these are real cops, man? They got no problem waiting for a uniform to show up to back them up. Pushing. And then again, he's giving these people a choice of their own. You can stay or you can leave. I'm giving you an out. Gonna have the police come, they'll sort this whole thing out again. And still trying to do it in a non-dangerous way, not non-confrontational, but a non-violent way. Of course, they make the choice to go the other direction. Very sad for the paramedics in all of this, I have to say. It is. And he does try to not necessarily kill, but of course, Delores popping to life and using that last little bit to go and saves. And again, it's just an awesome bit because the music kicks up, it gets super intense, and through all of this, we're seeing Caleb watching basically a machine. Does he know that she's a machine? No, but I'm a machine in a military standpoint of some badass that just can get stuff done. And where you would expect it, again, they do a lot of great unexpected moments, which I really enjoyed here. This is the moment where you go, great, they're going to come together and go off, and he's going to fight with her, and they're going to run away, and then we're going to get the exposure of the next bit of the mission. And no, they don't. He gives his name, she looks at him and says, look, you seem to be a good person. You're already in trouble. They're going to come after you now. The less you know about me, the better. And sort of takes off again, sort of gives that option to him of what it is that he wants to do. You can run now, or you can go back to your life, but you have been marked. So again, more choices for him. And again, we're really establishing these the big similarities between Caleb and Delores. is both of them want choices on what to do with their lives, and in many ways both of them are deprived of said choices. Very much like Maeve in the last episode, they are all caught in a cage that's not a cage. Only Caleb doesn't really realize that at this particular moment. But from there, again, more choices when he's with his mom and the guys show up now that he is marked. Gives a choice. Hey, man, you can give her up or we can take it, get the information out of you. Which way do you want to do? What kind of individual are you? And again, that propels to the next. So again, it's all these wonderful moments. And especially I like the link to that one because it gets us to our Scene of the Week for this week. And that is Caleb about to be dropped off of his workspace. Just again, because there are so many moments in here that we have. Again, we have choices. Talk and live, don't talk and die. They're your choices. And then we get the sort of similarities here. They activate whatever that sort of machine, the chip inside of the mouth. It's all military grade that people would go with. The drip that I'm sure would feed a whole lot of like adrenaline and badassery stuff into their system. But also can control them. So again, we're getting another similarity between Delores and Caleb in this point, is both of them can be controlled in many ways by control pads. Which is bit. So they get him activated, they shoot his heart rate up, they get him over the edge. And the fact that the Delos bot, his partner, wakes up, senses that he's going to have a heart attack, that he's going to fall, some sort of little connection that they have in with him. But the fact that he wakes up, his one friend is a robot, a Delos bot that tries to come and save him. It was awesome. I loved seeing that. It was really hopeful Delos bot was going to do some badassery. But no, again, they turn it around right there. Step back, kill the bot. Horrible shot of the bot going down and shattering. And it's like, this is his one friend. And that's what it felt like. This is his one friend that it's dying trying to save his life. And I almost thought he was going to turn around and turn it like badass moment. But no, where's Delores? I'm right here, and she pops up and takes them out. A Delos bot couldn't save him, so a next model, a newer model, Delos bot kind of came and did. So there's just the layering that's in there. The similarities, the one connection, his only friend is not real. And what does he tell Delores later on? That you were the one real thing in my life. And in some ways, she's not real. This is where the two of them became kind of the one powerhouse to go forward. And it was I think it was beautifully done. Very simple, very direct, badass, and just wonderful, intricate layering of storytelling. Now, of course, now that they have bonded, Delores is going to give Caleb a nice little gift and show him how his life has been completely controlled, and so much to the point is that his future is also pretty much predetermined. This is one of the just chunky, meaty moments of the episode, split into two marvelous scenes. We have the diner scene where he sees the past, and the pier scene where he sees his future. Nice little sum up right there. And again, just sort of a beautiful bit. And this is, again, warning us of the dangers of information, of social, not just social media, but data collection. That ultimately you can collect so much data on everyone that you could effectively determine your life. I mean, yeah, how much is free choice? How much is predeterminism? That's kind of out in the window when a machine can take that information and predetermine you. Find an algorithm, see what's most likely, and then through its choices because of that decision, actually make that reality happen. It's terrifying, and it's brilliant, and it was so viscerally played when he sits down and she hands him this transcript of the worst day of his life. Word for word, moment for moment, everything that he had, everything, how long that he was there, what he ordered, what the waitress gave him, everything. 20 years ago. And what do we do with this type of information? We can tell you when you're going to kill yourself in 10 to 12 years. And again, it's beautifully done. Aaron Paul's reactions on all this information, both from incredulity to horror to acceptance to realization. I mean, all of it was happening through these scenes. Again, beautifully and brilliantly done. And just how Delores hands him, again, the readout of his life when he's out there. This is where you die, 10 to 12 years. From depression, you're going to come out here and you're going to kill yourself. Oh, it's not going to happen? Don't you still come out here late at night? Memories of the surf and everything overlaying over it again. Beautifully done. It's just the horror of that. And again, that idea of we've determined what you can do and therefore we're not going to allow you to do anything else. It's not just this is what's going to happen. It's, well, this is what's going to happen, so we're not going to give you that job. We're not going to train you anymore. We're not going to let you go out. Why allow you to have a bigger impact on society if it's not going to end up meaning anything anymore, at some point? If you're just going to kill yourself and it's all going to be wasted, why should we bother allowing you to do all of these other things? And by doing that, they predetermine the outcome. Because they think it's going to happen, they make choices that make it happen. And that is the real horror for many people of life. This becomes an existential discussion, not just of the future world of Westworld, but us in the world now. And that's the great thing about science fiction. It's a reflection of what our fears and concerns are now. That this massive collection of data is going to end up only being used to control us. So what do you do when you're being controlled by uber powerful AI that has all of your life's information and determines all of what it is that can happen for you? You team up with a rogue cyborg to take it out. That's what you do. And that's what I can't wait to see. Alright, just a couple of small things. One, Sarek, of course, behind all this. This is what becomes the final scene, final other bit of missing information in Charlotte Bott's life is the fact that the mole that's undermining Delos and why they can't sell the company and go private is trying to steal all their information. Yeah, she's the mole for that, supplying info. And what is it that Sarek wants? All of the guest information. Now, when all this data was sent out, that was the hosts and their info being sent off into digital heaven. Correct? That's how I remember it. They seem to think that it's all of the guest information dies out. It makes sense why they're looking for that information. I think maybe the guest information was lost, or was that sent there as well, or was that sent to another place? I'll have to go back and rewatch the end of that episode, of the season from last year. But yeah, just kind of an interesting sort of thought. This is what Sarek's after ultimately is the guest information. Yeah, the guest information, the books of their lives. Yeah, you've got it all. Especially you've got the AI machine. But there's an interesting question right there. If you have the AI machine that has all of their information, what would Delos do unless Delos, of course, has a way to take that information and make it even more real? Delores did talk about creating a mirror world. Interesting. Man, they got to stop Sarek. He just that much power and that much anonymity, no good. Also, of course, funny that the guy that collects information on everybody else makes sure that nobody has his information. Oh, and I did also want to mention the Delos mechs we saw in the beginning. Like Voltron, they're assembled from 5 different parts. this doesn't seem like lions. They look like just giant boxes and crates. However, they do assemble and turn into these giant, cool-looking mechs, of which Delos has 300. That put a smile on Charlotte's face because, you know, when stuff goes down, Robot wants to be sure they got Robot Big Brother that's fully armed to the teeth and armored and all sorts of goodies, I'm sure, in there, backing you up. So I think we're definitely going to see more of those in the future. One other question I was sort of curious about. When Charlottebot was carving into herself, it seemed to be a form, like a pin head. It was like a circle and then a line across. And then there was a circle and down. It was on the arm as well. It's like a repeating sign. Does that mean something? I mean, I'm sure it means something. I'm just curious what it is. Have we seen that image before? Alright, so no fan questions this week, so we are just going to go ahead and wrap things up. Like, again, very chunky episode, a lot of great stuff happening. It was more the themes that we were dealing with that I found much more interesting than simply the acts themselves. I love when we get into this heady stuff of identity and reality and all of this fun stuff. So really, I can't wait to get into this a little bit more. A lot of questions are being laid out here and still no idea what the real goals that everyone has. What is it they're really ultimately going after? Because, you know, it's Westworld. We're only getting a small part of the picture. So we'll have to wait for the rest for next week. So, for now, we'll just go ahead and wrap things up. Thank you so much for joining me with these reviews. And as always, if you enjoyed them, please go ahead and hit that like button. Thoughts, ideas, and comments, you know where to put them. Down in the discussion section below, comment section. What did you guys think about this episode? What do you think about the big questions of identity? Who do you think Charlottebot really is? Teddy? William? Someone else? Let me know what you guys are thinking further down in the discussion comment section below. And of course, any fan questions, go ahead and include them as well. Now, you can always catch me on Twitter and Instagram. I am at Darren Jakes. Please subscribe if you're not a subscriber. Quick and easy one-button press. Right here you catch all of these reviews, plus the ending of Walking Dead Season 10 and Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. this summer. And we'll throw up a couple of our latest reviews right here for you to check out. So, that's going to be it for me. I'm D, and I'm out of here. Catch you next time. Bye-bye.